I don't want to do it. Downpipe install. You guys asked for it. Here we go. Alright guys, today's install is the Downpipe install. This is the one that most of you have been asking us for, messaging us about. So here it is. We've put it off a little bit, as you all know, installing the Downpipe, the dreaded Downpipe, because of the studs snapping and all that. Nobody really wants to do this job. If you take it to a shop, they might charge you $250, they might charge you $300. And it might only take them 30 minutes to do it if they get lucky. But worst case scenario, they snap a stud, they got to pull the turbo out, drill it, and put it in. So, but today we're going to install this and show you our methods of doing it. We're actually installing the new Pierce Motorsports Downpipe. So before they never made an elbow downpipe, so now this one has the elbow on here. Quality-wise, this has got to be one of the best downpipes I've seen so far. The elbow that they use on here is great. The transition they use is better than any I've seen. So really excited to put this on the car and give it a test. So with that said, let's get into this thing and hopefully don't shed too many tears. Let's go. All right guys, first step right off the bat, we're gonna go ahead and pull these, unclip the O2 sensors. You have your there's two clips here. They're both a little different. So the first one we're gonna just pop off here. Okay, so we're gonna unplug both of these. So actually, it's hard to do this with one hand, but let me, there we go. So we got these two unplugged. The next step would be to take them, we're gonna need to remove them off the bracket here. There's a little pinch tab deal on the back side of this that we just kind of pinch on the top and the bottom, and it'll come right out. But let me get my hand in there. So I got the bottom one. It's gonna be a little hard to follow on this video, I think. There's so much tight spaces and stuff moving around, but we'll do our best here. There we go. So as you can see, it's just a little deal where you pinch it together and pop it out. And then on this lower one, you can either take your thumbs and push it out, or get a screwdriver, but it just slides out towards the back of the car. So as you can see, it just slides onto the bracket there. So we're gonna remove those. And what we're doing is we're going to leave the O2 sensors in the downpipe and pull the downpipe with the sensors on it. We're gonna remove the sensors after the pipe's off the car, put them on the new pipe, and then put the unit in. Because if you try to remove the O2 sensors right now, it's miserable. So don't do that. Once we do this, we're gonna kind of follow the lines down the path, and there's gonna be a couple of spots that it's clipped onto, a couple of brackets. And same thing, it's just the little pinch deals where you push and pull. I don't know if you can see them down there, but that's what they are. So you just pinch and pull them off. There's one that you're gonna have to, this one's already busted off, but there's one that you're gonna have to pry off. I usually use a pair of dikes or something that have an angle on it, and just pop it right out. Sometimes they break, but you're not gonna really need to use those anyway. So, and we'll pull this last one out. Okay, that one's loose. So we just let those dangle down in there, and that step's loose. So that's step one. Now we'll get under the car and start unhooking the downpipe itself. Next up is going to be removing the rear two nuts. I believe these are 17s. but I don't remember, so let me check it out. So it's a 19 on the rear and a 17 on the front. You can use a breaker bar on this if you want to. I would choose to use an impact, so it's going to be a little loud for a second. So I'll break the nuts loose on one side. Sometimes you need to use a wrench to hold the opposite nut because it'll spin depending on how it's on there. There we go, we got one. Okay. So we got the two nuts off. We'll just go ahead and remove the bolts out. And you can reuse this gasket, so save that. And here's this. So once it's off, we're gonna kind of just let it dangle. We're gonna have to maneuver that up and out of the way when we're ready. Tight spots with a lot of spiders freak me out, so don't mind me if I scream like a little girl if I see a spider. So next step would be to remove this rubber grommet here. So you can just pull it. They make a special tool for this that I can link down in the description below. You guys can buy it if you need it. You can use a pry bar, your fingers, whatever it is you got to do to get this off. So for me, I just use my fingers. I'm just gonna kind of do that, and I like to swing it up out of the way. We'll reuse that. So one thing I didn't mention to you guys in the previous was I already have a Pierce Motorsports Down Pipe on my car. Even though we're using a Pierce Motorsports Downpipe, the steps that we're taking right now, you guys can apply to any downpipe you have, whether it's OEM, or if you're switching from a different downpipe to a Pierce, or if you're using 845, it doesn't matter. All these steps will pertain to this. So with that said, we removed these. On this particular one is the old school 2013 model. So it's a two-piece downpipe we have on the car now. So to make things easy and to show you on the video, we're going to go ahead and remove the downpipe first, and then we'll remove the elbow second, so we can get a camera in there and show you the nuts and how to get those off properly. So with that said, let's bounce to the two top nuts that hold this together, which are going to be 19s. You're going to need two extensions. I like to stick two of these together to make it extra long, and then we're going to actually use the impact and slide this in the canal here. So that's what we're going to do next. All right, guys, so I got this extension on there with a 19 millimeter. We're gonna go ahead and take these two nuts off. There's one on this side and one on the opposite side of that. We're just gonna use it. I mean, these are not torqued on tight. There's a spring that holds them spring loaded, but I like to use the impact on them just to get it done quick. So we just go ahead and rip these off. So slide it up on there and just one. Just reach up in there and grab those off. We're not going to need to save these unless you plan on putting your stock system back on. So, but like I say in every video, save all your nuts. Get that out later. It's all on top of the cross member. Okay, next up at this point would be to pull the downpipe out. So in order to do that, we just let this thing drop down. So we'll move that up there, and we'll slide this down off. We got snagged up there with the wire. Got our O2 sensor wires that we didn't really get out of the way. Go. Okay, let's just slide this off. The old Pierce Motorsports Downpipe. This thing has been on my car for 5 years and looks pretty damn good. Not much rust really. So this thing has treated me right. Okay. Now that that's out of the way, the next step would be to remove that elbow up there, the dreaded elbow with the three nuts. The three nuts that we're going to uninstall. This one might be a little easier because I've already replaced the studs on this with the ARP studs. But what I would recommend you guys doing on these would be to soak them with some PB Blaster, and just for an hour or so will help you out a little bit. If you have a buddy to help you, it would be great to have one guy operating from underneath and one guy on top. Yeah, what I like to do is put the tool on from underneath and have my buddy or somebody from up top do the torquing, and we just watch these things as they come out and go super slow and don't force it. Some guys like to use an impact and rip them off real quick and think that's the way to do it. That might work, but I haven't had any luck with that, so we'll show you our method. All right, guys, so we have this lower nut here. In our case, we can just get the ratchet wrench on here and it's loose enough to pop off. So we'll go ahead and remove this one. We got lucky on this being semi-loose, so let's go ahead and do that. Man, that's gonna be in the shot here, but I'm just gonna screw that off by hand. With these ARP nuts or bolts that we use, it's just super easy. It's almost impossible to strip them or get into trouble with them. So we'll go ahead and pull that one off for now. Looks like our little lock washer has seen better days, so we'll put new ones on. All right, the bottom one's done. Now we got to get the two tops, and we'll get some help on that and from up above. So let's switch to those ones. All right, going on to the second nut, which is up top, as you can see in the camera there. Super hard to get a picture of, but there we are. We're going to be sliding in a 12 millimeter on the extension to the nut from the top of the car. Let me show you that. So we got AJ up in the corner there, and we're going to slide that 12 millimeter right down in there under these two lines right here, these coolant lines, or the tranny cable lines. And then we're going to slide this and kind of bend it up. There we go. And then we're going to slide it, there we go, onto the nut. And then from up top, we're going to grab a ratchet on that and go ahead and start to loosen. As AJ goes ahead and rotates that, oh, there he goes. Look at that, we got lucky again. That sucker is spinning so far, so keep pushing in, AJ, towards the, oh, we popped off. There you go. Yeah, keep the pressure in. Looking good. So as it's rotating, I'm watching down below as AJ goes ahead and does this, making sure it doesn't bind. If it binds for some reason, stop. Sometimes I go in the other way, or I'll stop, put some more lube on it, some PB Blaster, and do it that way. So, I think we're loose. Go ahead and see if I can get my fingers in there. All right, we got that off. There we see that last third nut on the bottom. So we're gonna go ahead and pull that off. We're gonna go down, below. Yep, there you go, down all the way. Yeah, we're gonna go down under there and then level it out. We might have to change the, actually go back towards the motor. Yep, straight in, up a little bit, down tad, down. Okay, you're gonna go towards the back of the motor, tad. Aha, right there. How are we looking on the extensions? A stubby one, a small one maybe? Yeah. Okay, I got this. You got it? So we got the 12 millimeter on there. We like to use like a little short, not the extended one, just gives you more room to like get this to wiggle around. So we used two extensions. We used a medium length one and a small short, like 2-inch deal. And then from up top, we're gonna go ahead and start turning that one. There we go. Just nice and slow. Now this can technically be done with one person under the car. but it's nice if you have a buddy to help you if these nuts get stuck on there or anything like that. It's good to have extra set of hands. And if you do it this way, how we're doing it, it's very unlikely you're going to strip one of these nuts or snap one off. So, okay, I think we got it.
Feels like it.
Yep. Yeah. So this one, actually the whole stud came out. So this whole stud just came right out. Instead of snapping, this kind of got galled up a little bit and stuck on there. But that's okay too, because when we put it back in, screw it back in and tighten it up. So should be just fine. Stock elbow. All right, so the gasket itself up here, guys, that's on there. If you can reuse that, go ahead and reuse that. You don't really need to deal with that. If you have a new one, go ahead and use a new one. If you don't worry about it, just reuse it. And we're going to crank those down to like 35 pounds when we reinstall this. So with that said, next up is let's take the O2 sensors off. All right, guys, as you can tell, this is a dirty job, but we've got the downpipe on the bench. So now we're going to remove the O2 sensors and then put them on the new downpipe. So you don't need a vise to do this. I like to do it just, I have it here, might as well utilize it. First things first, if you guys don't have one, I need you to go pick up something like this. Okay, this is a 7/8 or a 22 millimeter O2 sensor removal tool. It has a slot in it here so it can slide over the wires. If you don't have this, you probably want to get one. I'll put a link in the description below where you can get these. If I remember correctly, it was like 10 bucks or something. It wasn't a lot. So with that said, what you do, you slide it onto the wire, so the housing, and you're just going to slide it down onto the sensor. You're going to get, you can use a ratchet, but most of these are on pretty good, so I use a breaker bar with a long handle and give it a twist. Okay, and then when you pull it off, same thing, it just slides right off the wire. Amazing tool. If these are stuck in here, I kind of urge you guys not to use a PB blaster or something like that to loosen the threads. If the PB blaster gets onto the sensor itself, it could ruin the sensor. So in the event that happens, I would say use a torch or something, maybe even something, just a little torch you can get at Home Depot. Heat it up, use the same tool, and that'll break it loose pretty easy. So with that said, go ahead and remove this all the way out. And then I like to give it a little visual. This thing's really clean. We don't really see them that clean often. So that's the back side, that's the front side. The sensor looks good. So when you set the sensor down, be gentle, or what I like to do, come check it out over here, is I'll just take it straight off the old one, stick it in the hole of the new one, and just don't tighten it, just kind of hand tighten it just to set it in there. That way you don't bump the sensor, you don't ruin the sensor. These are expensive, so. Okay, moving on to the next one, same thing. We're gonna slide it onto the wire and then slide it on down. I know some of you are watching this right now and saying, oh man, he's got this elbow on here. This is a Big Daddy spacer that's supposed to help. This one actually makes it too far from the stream, so you still get a cell. But anyways, we're not gonna reuse that on the new one, no need to. So go ahead and loosen that up and take this off. Okay, and we're gonna set that down for a minute. And same thing, I like to stretch these out and twist so we don't kink the wire. And then while you have these out, always double check all this area here, make sure nothing is melted. You know, this one looks like it got a little heated, but still covered, and there's no wires showing, so we won't get a short there. That you're not supposed to do. But so this is your secondary It's pretty charcoaled up there, but it doesn't look to be in bad shape, so this one should still work. So same thing, like to walk over here, just kind of put it in there for temporary, just so you don't ruin it. Okay. And then we'll tighten those right now. So we'll come back over to this downpipe here. We'll take this out and open this up. So again, this is the Pierce Motorsports downpipe made out of stainless steel for the 2013 models. This thing, 5 years I've had this on the car, and we just took it off for the first time. This is how it looks. So it held up really well. All the welds look great. So if you have a 2013 and don't want to deal with the elbow, we have these on the site as well, so check these out. So we'll put that away and get back to the business at hand. So we'll stick this back in the vise here. Okay, so same thing on these. We can use, just screw it in as much as you can by hand, and we're going to snug it up. You don't need to over tighten these at all. So let's just slide this on. Okay, and you can give it a little snug with your torque wrench or the breaker bar, and pull it off. That's all you need to do on that. Doesn't need to be He-Man tight. Just as long as the crush washer on there crushes and it's tight, you're good. Same thing here. Let's slide this tool on here. Get it nice and tight, and then we'll get this breaker bar on here. Let's go this way here, give ourselves some more room. Okay, and then we're just gonna center down. And we're gonna pull that off there. And that's it for the install on the O2 sensors. So now the next step of the process is just to go ahead and put this on the car. Before you do that, the Pierce Motorsports new downpipe comes with nuts for this. The nuts are pretty specific to this because of the size of the clearance that we have. So we have the 12-point ARP nuts for this. I ran out of them here, and this is the prototype, so I didn't have the nuts here. I went ahead and kind of whittled my own down off the stock nuts that I had a bunch of. We just turned them down and took the flange off as much as we can, it's just clearance purposes. Reason why I bring that up is when you get the nuts, you're going to want to get yourself a tool like this. A normal wrench, you're not going to be able to get on here, a normal socket, you won't have enough room, so you're going to want to use one of these guys to get the nuts on. This is a Craftsman 10 millimeter. Oh shit. Got it. Part number 45989, and then it has an A-AF. So if you Google that or whatever, you can find it, and I'll put it in the description below, so you can just buy it if you need to. Get one of these, you'll need it. So let's go get this on the car. Let's stop messing around. Back at it here. Now that we got the O2 sensors in the car, or in the downpipe, let's put this downpipe in the car. Same thing like we took the last one off. We'll go ahead and start sliding it up in there. Should slide in pretty easy. And if we have to rotate this around, kind of finagle it in there. Getting hung up on things here. There we go. Sometimes it takes a while to find the hole, am I right? All right, there she blows. And then let's go ahead and put our lock washers on this. We got one here, get fresh stainless steel lock washers. And then we'll add one at the top, but let's put this nut on first. Hopefully we did our homework correctly and this nut is going to go on. We did good, gentlemen and ladies. We did real good. So now that we got that in there, I went and whittled my own tool down. And let's see if I can get it on there. Still didn't work. Not yet anyway. So let's go ahead and use this side of the wrench. And go ahead and get it on there. Because of the transition on this thing, it's going to take a little bit of patience to get these tight, but it'll be well worth it on the dyno. Let's see, now it's in there. Let's see if I can get my tool on there. Oh yeah, look at that. So, the tool I told you guys to buy with the 10mm will probably work out great. So the 10mm, 12mm I didn't buy one, so I had to make one. So that's what you see here. I whittled it down. It doesn't look great, but sometimes you gotta make your own tools, you know? That's the name of the game. So, this will come in handy down the road on something, I'm sure. So, we didn't torque this down yet all the way. We just kind of temporarily just hand snug it. We're gonna hand snug all of them and then go back around, torque the top two, and then on this bottom one, if we can't get a torque wrench on here, which we might not be able to, we're gonna use the old double wrench trick. I'll show you that. So, on to the next one. All right, guys, second nut going in, back towards the motor. This one's going all the way. So. Okay, we're close to the hole. Now you're gonna rock your end towards the front of the car. Yep, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Oh, 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 so good. Okay, start turning it. Let's see if we can get this thing to catch a thread. I think what I boo-booed. Let's, you know, you can't make it all look nice and flowery all the time. Sometimes you make mistakes, so. We're gonna go ahead and loosen this up so we can get some leverage getting that other bolt in there, because it didn't line up quite exact to get that in there. So let's just loosen this up a tad. There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, we got it in. As I sit here and do absolutely nothing, monitor the camera, AJ's doing all the work.
The roles reverse.
All right, now we got those two nuts on. Last nut to go on is the top nut. Well, I think what we'll try to do on this one is get the wrench on there. Whoops. Gotta do it this way for a minute. Get them started. Pipe makes it hard to gonna be a pain in the butt no matter what we do here. If the socket will fit on there now. Oh, it's on there. Dude, you are cool. All right, so what next we need to do is get a torque wrench out of the toolbox and adjust the torque wrench. All right, so last step would be tightening this last nut, snug it up. So we'll just wrench it on. It's gonna be hard space-wise to get anything in here, so let's just get it as tight as we can with this. It's a little bit challenging to get these in there. This bottom one's a doozy. And the only way we can do it is just make sure it's tight this way. So the lock washer on there, just try to get it as tight as you can. Okay. As tight as you can without stripping it. Just be careful with the box end wrench when you do the open end wrench. That's pretty tight. I'm gonna go ahead and call that tight on there. With the lock washer on there, it probably is not coming off. Even with the downpipes, when you install these downpipes on here, just always double check these. Anytime you jack the car up for anything else, I always come in here and check those nuts. Because it gets so hot in there, they're gonna try to back themselves off a lot of times. So just get up there and check them every once in a while. Get them to 35 pounds of foot torque, or for 35 pounds when you torque it, if you can. But that's it on those 3 nuts. So the downpipe's in. The only thing we have to do is connect the hanger and button up the 2 nuts on the back, and then hook up the O2 sensors, and we're done. So let's go ahead and slide back and connect the exhaust and put the hanger on. Let's go. All right, so I think what we're gonna do first is we're gonna take this rubber grommet off the car itself, make it easier to slide on. So try to get this pried off here. Again, an exhaust hanger tool or something like that would be good. I don't know if we can get this stretched on like this. No, I gotta get a pry bar real quick. All right, and we're just gonna pry this off using a pry bar. Okay, and then we're gonna slide this on the Pierce Motorsports downpipe. I think on future installs, now that we're doing this, I might have you guys just install this on the downpipe first. Now that we're in here and looking at it, it's a lot easier to do that first. And then go ahead and put it back on the car like that. Okay, and then we can just slide that into place just like that. So that keeps that in place. The last thing that we need to do is button up the exhaust here. So what I like to do is we're gonna put the nut in, the bolt here, and we're gonna put one side of the gasket in. And this gasket that fits here is perfect already. The flange, those Pierce Motorsports downpipe is perfect. So I usually just set one up first, and then the Pierce Motorsports downpipe also comes with new hardware. We're using what we have. This is a bolt that we obtained with the stock OEM nuts. And can't see the hole here. There we go. All right, so we got those nice in there. We got make sure the gasket's lined up in there. The only thing we got to do now is tighten it. To tighten these bolts, I'd be lying to you if I told you what the torque spec was to these, because I have no idea. I usually just tighten them till I can't tighten them anymore. So in this case, I'll get my impact back on there and we'll just crank it down. So just as the tighter the better. You just don't want to snap them or strip them, so just keep an eye out on that. So let's go ahead and do that. So I like to first things first, snug both sides up without cranking it down, just to make sure everything gets on evenly. Okay, and they're both tight. Let's just go to town. All right, downpipe is installed in the car. The final step to this whole thing is to hook up the O2 sensors up top again, and we can use a lot of the same brackets and stuff that are there, so we just pop all the clips back to where they belong in the brackets and plug it in, and that's pretty much it. And then we'll go drive it around real quick and see what the sound difference might be between the catted version, high flow cat, and then the catless. Later, I'm going to go ahead and install the Pierce Motorsports catless back on this car, and that's what's going to stay on this car. But for video purposes, this is the prototype again, so this is what we had today to show you guys. So let's go back up top and finish this thing up and see how she sounds. So what we did is we pulled these wires straight up off the downpipe down here, and we're going to just pull them straight up out the top for now. First thing we're going to do is locate this back into its home and then plug these two in. After these are plugged in, we'll run down and start putting these clips back in to hold them. Anything that's not clippable, or if it's sitting on the downpipe at all for whatever reason, we'll go ahead and zip tie them and make sure they're clear of that. So let's go ahead and install these guys here. So this one again pushes on the bracket this way. So we'll go down here and just install that. Okay, we'll get that on there. And then we'll get this little guy in here in its home. And then those clips we were talking about earlier, we're going to go ahead and clip those into place. And it looks like we're clear of everything. So we probably don't have to zip tie anything into place. All the clips go right back into their stock locations. I'm going to say this right off the bat. Pierce Motorsports Down Pipe. I know you guys are just keep plugging this thing, but the more I touch this downpipe, the better it is. I mean, this thing, other downpipes that I've installed, the sensors hit the heat shield. Maybe like on the CNT ones, the sensor wires are stretched out. They're just in the wrong place, so it's hard to deal with. I was able to install this downpipe and install all the wires and the clips in the exact location that they came out on the stock one, or basically what I had them on my setup, which was his downpipe before. But also with that one, everything was perfectly in the stock location. So I mean, it's perfect. It's almost like factory going in there. So it's like a high performance factory part. So if Hyundai were to come up with their own performance brand of downpipes, they should probably copy this. So, but so those are all done. We just have to plug in the two clips back in, and then that's it. So we'll stick the ECU and the battery back in. We didn't go over that in the video earlier. We pulled everything out of here. You don't really have to do that, but it did make it a lot easier to get access into here, and mainly for us to film, to get the cameras in there. It was just easier for us to do that. So let's plug these back in real quick. So it's these two little guys. We're just going to plug them back in. There's not much to see on that. You can't screw it up. It goes in one way. So we'll get that one back in there. Okay. And then we zip tied the fuel line up out of the way and all that, so we'll put that back how we had it down there. And we can just leave these lines here is it tied up like they are. So, all right, downpipe's in. So the only thing to do now is put the battery back in the car and put her back on the ground, start her up, see if we notice a difference. Power-wise, it's going to be less power because I went from a catless to a catted. But we're just curious to see what the sound sounds like. So let's get back into that. Alright guys, that's pretty much it on the downpipe install. We were dreading this install to begin with. It's not enjoyable on most cars. This wasn't actually too bad. Probably a little bit to do with we've installed a downpipe on the car already and replaced the studs. So it went pretty smooth, but everything you saw in the video can be used on your vehicle. Just be careful on the studs, take your time, soak them for an hour or so if you need to with some like PB Blaster or something similar. And you shouldn't run into too many problems. Torque all your bolts down to 35 pounds if you can. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. It wasn't too hard to do, so you guys can do it. Final thoughts on this one. I really enjoyed installing the Pierce Motorsports one. I've installed all of them so far. So I've done 6-element, 845, CNT. I did a Torque Motorsports one, and then now the new Pierce downpipe. The new Pierce downpipe the quality is bar none. I probably said it a million times in this video, but as I'm going through it and installing this thing, I'm realizing like, wow, this is really great. So if you guys at least check it out, if you haven't seen them, we'll put descriptions down below for those if you guys want to check them out. One thing we noticed on the final drive on it, seemed to be, so startup was quiet, the car was a little bit more quiet, but once we got on it, this car is a little bit louder than the catless. I don't know if we blew out the cat on this thing. Because I'm about 320 horsepower on this at 28 pounds of boost, so we might have just blew out the cat on the sucker. It sounds good. So with that said, if you guys have any questions, again, just let us know. Hit us up on social media. Please hit the like and subscribe button on our videos. Again, we're doing these weekly for you guys, so if there's anything you want to see, let us know. Reach out to us. And other than that, I think that was it on the video. So until next week, man, we'll see you guys later.